Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Go Big or Go Home. I'm Old Man Troy, joined by the spectacular youngster Kevin Cunningham, a.k.a. Kid Cunny on Twitter. What's going on today, my friend?
Today, nothing? Sure.
What about tomorrow?
Well, I don't know about tomorrow. I don't care about tomorrow. Yesterday, though. Yesterday, I killed a cockroach.
Well, come on now.
Yep.
Say it ain't
Yeah.
so, Joe.
Yep.
The youngster killed a cockroach. The animal that scared the bejesus out of him 2 months ago.
Yeah.
You killed one.
Yeah. The last time I saw one, I went to grab spray, grab a shoe, this and that, ended up it ran away and, back into the laundry room somewhere where I couldn't find it. And so I was, scared out of my mind for a few days until it resurfaced on a wall. And I'm like, okay, this time I have to kill it. So I did. But that was, a tragedy. But this time I actually got to spray it ASAP and killed it as quick as possible. So
Did you waste a whole bottle? Did you waste a whole bottle on it?
I didn't waste as much as I did last time. I'll say that much. My wife was home too, and she just she didn't laugh in the moment, but she wanted to laugh at my reaction when I first saw it. But she just stayed away. She just wanted to watch the show.
She laughed after the fact, didn't she?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. So
I might have to give her a high five on Facebook.
Yeah. So she did well. She just steered clear, and I just went to town on the thing. So not as much drama as it was last time. But
yeah, she was probably waiting in the wings, waiting for you not to kill it, and then she was going to zoom in and say, "This is how you do it, youngster." Bam.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? To show you that I actually do follow on social media, and that's a hint to all our listeners, I actually am very active on social media. I may not post a lot, but I look a lot. And I happen to know it's Mrs. Youngster's birthday coming up here in a couple of days.
You are absolutely correct. Yeah.
So
Saturday. Yeah.
I will give her the proper adieu birthday wishes on Facebook. She'll probably be like, "Old man, what are you doing?" So it is what it is. But what's more disturbing though, youngster, is that you still have a cockroach problem. I thought you called someone.
No, I did. Yeah, I did during the first instance, and they, put down this little garbage spray that did nothing. And, a few days later, the cockroach came back out, and I killed it. But in the end, they don't do anything. They just put their little spray down and say, all right, well, we sprayed. So it's like, oh, wonderful. That does nothing.
I would think you need to get something a little more powerful than whatever they put down.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you have mutant cockroaches down there.
I don't think that these cockroaches are just laying in the weeds, just waiting to come out. I feel like there's some way to get back there. So I'm sure in a few more months, another one will pop up in that same location. I don't think they're crawling through the front door. I just think there's a way to get into the laundry room through some pipe or something. I don't know, but regardless, hopefully.
Yeah, that's kind of exciting. That's a big accomplishment for you, youngster. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was much more efficient this time around.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. And I'm glad you're around to talk about it. Those cockroaches can be tricky.
They can be. Hopefully I don't.
All right.
Cockroach.
Well, this week we're moving into the other division, the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Kind of exciting. We're halfway home. Only a couple of weeks, and we're into college football. It's awesome. Yeah. That wonderful AP Top 25 poll came out, youngster. Woo! I know you text me. Whew, I am so excited about it, and I can't tell you who's number one. But I did browse over it, though. I did, because we do a Big Ten show. And there's some Big Ten representation in there, which is cool. But again, it means absolutely nothing in the middle of August.
What it means is there's a number to put next to the team's names on Saturday that you look at and you say, oh, look, there's Nebraska, 24. That's the importance of it. So again, the AP makes these polls week after week after week after week after week, and we talk about it and we talk about it, and then the College Football Playoff Committee runs their first poll. I think it's November, the first weekend in November, and then it's like, okay, AP poll doesn't matter anymore. AP poll still keeps coming out. We just don't care about it because it doesn't mean anything. College Football Playoff Committee, their poll, that actually matters. Those are the guys.
And see, I'm okay with that one. That one I actually am interested in because that one means something. And it's halfway through the season, or almost 3/4 of the way through the season. So teams have played games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not hard for an average fan to think, okay, yeah, Clemson's probably the best team in the country. Yeah, Alabama's pretty good too. Yeah, Ohio State's pretty good too. So common sense is going to tell me that a lot of these teams are going to be in the top 10. I don't need an AP poll in the middle of August to tell me about the powerhouse teams that are there year after year after year after year.
Right.
So to me, it's just a bunch of hogwash. But if you want to go through it and let the listeners know which Big Ten teams are in the, I'm air quoting, the big AP preseason poll. Here it comes, folks.
Top 25, first top 25 of the year. I'll go very quickly with this. Just a couple nuggets to throw in there as well. Clemson 1, Alabama 2, Georgia 3, Oklahoma 4, Ohio State 5. Like, you get the theme. Like LSU 6, Michigan 7, Florida 8, Notre Dame 9, Texas 10. Like big school after big school after big school after big school. SEC, Big 10, SEC. Oh, Big 12. Oh, Big 10, SEC. I mean, it's the same. There's no shocking thing here. I think it would have been cool to have Army in the top 25.
There's no Troy State in there. There's no Elkhorn State in there.
The only Group of 5 team in there is UCF. There's 23 Power 5, and then there's Notre Dame, and then there's UCF. That's it. So there's nothing that interesting as far as, wow, look at this team. There's 7 Big Ten teams. That's the most of any conference. The SEC had 6, Pac-12 5, so on and so forth. So the Big Ten can boast about that. It's the first time since 2000 that the Big Ten has had 7 teams in the preseason poll. Again, it goes to show the depth of the conference, how good it is. The top 4 teams ranked from the Big Ten were from the East Division, which is what we're talking about today and on next week's show. The West Division has, the last 3 in Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska. Just to very quickly go over those. Let's see here. Ohio State 5, Michigan 7, Penn State 15, Michigan State 18, Wisconsin 19, Iowa 20, and then Nebraska 24.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there, youngster. I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
The AP has Nebraska 24. They must be crazy. See, this poll is already out of whack. It means nothing because Vegas has Nebraska in the college football playoff. So
they have them
come on now. Somebody screwed up. The AP's not putting Nebraska where it needs to be if Vegas is putting them in the playoff.
Well, and I think, Auburn plays Oregon in week 1, and Auburn's ranked 16th, and Oregon is 11th. So there's another Vegas AP difference. I mean, you can take from the AP poll what you want, but in general, there's a lot of Big Ten teams in there. I thought it was interesting that Ohio State was above Michigan since everyone thinks Michigan's better. That's really about it. That's all. That's it. That's all I have from the AP poll. I know you hate the thing. I think sometimes it can be.
Well, I'm not going to say hate. I'm not going to use the word hate.
Okay.
I dislike it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's cool to look at. I mean, if I'm a casual fan, it's cool to look at. We host a radio show, and it means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I could care less that Wisconsin is in the top 25 because they could win 3 games this year. Well, they could win 9, though. Again, that conference is so even, top to bottom, that any of these teams that you're seeing right now could finish where they're at, could finish higher, or could just poo the bed. And not on purpose. I mean, it is a good Western Conference. I wouldn't say a dominant one. It's just good football teams.
Yeah.
And where they're ranked, I mean, like I said, I looked at it. I don't put any stock into it. But where they have those teams, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, it's about right. if you're going to ask me where they rank in the country, the West is very good. But as far as where they rank, probably 20 to 30. You know, 4 or 5 of those teams. And that's probably where they're going to stay all year. Because I don't see any of these teams going on a big run. There's too much competition in that division. But we're not talking about the West. We're talking about the East today. What else you got with the AP Top 25? Otherwise, let's go. Let's get started.
Last thing with the Top 25, and then I've got one other little topic I want to get into very quickly before we jump into the 4 teams on the East. Last thing with the AP poll, Troy, do you know the last time Indiana was ranked in the AP poll? Not the preseason, just ever in the AP poll. When was the last time they were in the top 25?
I have to think. Probably 1987.
You were even harsher than reality. It's 94. So, I mean, it's been almost literally 25 years.
Well, I'm trying to think back of when they were relevant. And they were relevant. Right. They were relevant when I was in high school. And they were relevant when I was attending the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater.
Mm-hmm. I think
you like how I threw our old school in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, to me, it's like second nature now. We almost talk about them every week. I think it was 1993, I looked, that they finished 8-4. I think it was 93. It was either 92 or 93. They finished 8-4. That was the last time they had double the amount of wins as losses. I mean, and you can sprinkle in like 2 years of like 7-5 in there since then. But it's crazy how long it's been. It's actually been 1,299 weeks that the AP polls come out and Indiana hasn't seen its name. That's just insane to me. Topic
it might be how many weeks are in a college football season? September, October, November.
It's like 15 or something like that.
Another 12, 18 more weeks. It'll be another 18 weeks on that 1,200 and counting.
Yeah, I agree with you. Last thing I wanted to mention.
I can't see him breaking the top 25.
No, it'll be 1,300 plus weeks strong. Last topic I wanted to get to very quickly. Michigan State has 5 assistant coaches on its football team that restructured their deals to rollover deals, like 1 year. They're down 5 assistant coaches on Michigan State's coaching staff, football, are on 1 year rollover deals. I think it's very weird. I don't know if they're using it as motivation. I know they have a new AD, so I don't know if he's saying, hey, D'Antonio, let's get this thing rolling here. Hey, assistant coaches, you better win or you're done. I think it's just interesting. I think it's weird. I think it's interesting. I don't know if it's all motivational. I don't know if this is D'Antonio.
You know how I feel about 1 year rollovers, youngster.
Well,
I think it's weird too, but I'd say it with players, with coaches too. It's fine.
Mm.
I know in today's world people want security, but I mean, think about the jobs we do, youngster. If you go out and write a crappy column week after week after week, are you going to be able to write a column the next week? No.
Right.
Same thing with my job. If I don't sell any pop this week, I might get 1 more week to sell pop, and then if I don't sell any, then I'm done.
Yeah.
So, I'm okay with it. If you're good at what you do, a 1 year contract should not even faze you. It's the whole betting on yourself thing. And maybe I'm just a confident guy. Maybe I'm just very confident that I can get it done, so you're going to keep paying me.
Mm-hmm. That's what LeBron
I don't know.
LeBron would always sign 1 year deals and assess after the offseason. Hey, do I want to go to Miami? Hey, do I want to go to LA? Hey, do I want to stay in Cleveland? He would always do that because he could bet on himself that he wouldn't have some major injury. He would bet on himself that he was going to be the best player in the world, and he could do that. No other player really does that.
No, because they all want guaranteed money.
Yeah.
And they want a lot of it, so they want a 4 or 5 year deal.
Yeah. So my last
thing. It is
thing
weird though that in college though, Kevin, that they got them on 1 year deals. That is weird.
Right. My thing with this is like and my coworker brought this up, not me, but someone who writes Big Ten stuff. He's like, with this new AD, if all these, D'Antonio assistants are on 1 year deals, like, does that mean D'Antonio has we always joke on this show, fire D'Antonio, but if he puts together a season or they go under 500 and all these assistants lose their jobs because of it, like, does that mean this could be the last season for D'Antonio? I don't think it's ridiculous to say. I think
if I'm D'Antonio, though, Kevin, I hate to say this. I really hate to say this because I like him. I kind of hope he gets fired. And he can go somewhere that'll give him a fair shake because the guy's going to find a job in 2 days.
Yeah.
The guy's a good football coach. Michigan State does not know what they have. And we're going to go down this road all year again, probably. D'Antonio knows how to coach college football.
Yeah.
That's where he's meant to be. He's a college football coach. So Michigan State, if you want to fire him, fire him. And it's going to come back to bite you right in the rear end because somebody will hire him in 2 days.
I agree. Yeah. So, moving on.
You got me all worked up. You got me worked up before a preview show. Oh,
moving
my
on.
God, youngster.
Let's move on to the Big Ten East here. We finished out the Big Ten West last week. So Northwestern, Wisconsin, Purdue, we talked about those teams. We're going to try and keep this show moving. It's the bottom 4 teams of last year's standing. So if you look at the 2018 standing, then the bottom 4 teams of the Big Ten East, that's who we're looking at today. As you can tell by clicking on the link to listen to the show, we're talking about Rutgers, Indiana, Maryland, Michigan State. We're going from the bottom up. So for Rutgers, a year ago, they finished 20 and 18. They finished the 2018 season at 1-11 overall. They were 0-9 in Big Ten play. They got crushed by basically everybody, and this is now Chris Ash's 4th year coming into 2019. So you would assume that maybe we'll see better things if Chris Ash has this program going in the right direction. Maybe, like you would hope. Last year, statistically, it's funny. They were basically atrocious everywhere except for pass defense. And if you think about it, if your team is down 28-0 in the first quarter, the other team is probably going to run more than they're going to throw it because they just want to get the game over with, get guys healthy, just run the clock out. So the passing numbers in terms of defense, they actually weren't bad. But again, that's because they were getting crushed in every single game and teams didn't have to throw it against them. That's how I see it anyway. We always talk about, stats on this show. Sometimes they can be misleading. I think that would be one of those stats, especially just overall passing numbers. I'll say this, that Rutgers has, a really good corner that showed a lot as a freshman, but, in general, I don't think that speaks to their talent level. At defensive back, I think it's just they were getting crushed and other teams decided to run it. That's my opinion. Offensively, as far as returners, they get a few skill position players back, a couple offensive linemen. They return their quarterback, who is kind of in a quarterback battle, Artur Sitkowski. He was a freshman a year ago. He was kind of more of a highly regarded guy. It was surprising that I think he committed to Miami, and then he decommitted, and then he chose Rutgers, or it was down
that wonderful word, decommitted.
Yeah. Or it was down, I don't want to say this, with 100% backing. It was either down to Rutgers and Miami and he chose Rutgers, or he was at Miami or he chose Miami and then he, quote unquote decommitted. One of the two, regardless. He chose Rutgers over Miami. So expectations were fairly high, and he went out onto the field week 1, and it's like, all right, here's our guy. And, he did atrociously because Rutgers is bad. I don't care what quarterback you have, he would have done bad at Rutgers last year. Doesn't matter if you have Trevor Lawrence from Clemson, doesn't matter if you have Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama, doesn't matter who you have. I think they would have been bad. So I don't necessarily think that, his college career is over and this and that, but I just don't think any quarterback would have succeeded a year ago with that team. Defensively, they returned 5 guys. Starters, I should say. Defensive line, probably going to be suspect. And schedule-wise, I'm just kind of blowing through Rutgers here. Schedule-wise, it's pretty rough, but that's because of the division you're in. That's because you're last in your division, so you're only going to be looking at teams that finished ahead of you a year ago. So There's just more difficult opponents. I'm not going to go through everything, but, they played the Big Ten East, and then out west, let's see here, Minnesota, Illinois.
Well, I think you spent a long time on Rutgers already, Kevin. I mean, what more? And I'm not downplaying where we're at with Rutgers, but let's be honest. Rutgers in the Big Ten.
Other Big Ten team, every other Big Ten team is on a different level, and you can include Illinois. Illinois is on a different level than Rutgers is. Rutgers is, you could easily make the case, the worst Power 5 team, including every other Power 5 conference. They're just
we're just being real, and those listening in, we're not Rutgers haters.
No.
For those that listen all the time, Kevin and I are just real about stuff. We say it how it is. Rutgers is not good, and I don't care. Every once in a while, there's going to be a year maybe they win 7 games, Kevin, go 7-5. I can't see that program winning more than 7. That would be a flash in the pan.
Yeah, they had that good run with Ray Rice, and they had like a 2-year stint where they won 10 games. But that was like a while ago now, and different coach, different coaching staff, different times. Weren't in the Big Ten. It was different back then. So.
Well, you just look at the division. They're going to play Michigan every year, Ohio State and Michigan State. Those 3 teams are consistently going to be good,
and
like
Penn
really
State.
good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot Penn State. So Penn State. There is a third of your season right there.
Right.
And every year I'm going to pen in. I'm not penciling in. I'm going to pen in a win for those 4 schools against Rutgers.
Yeah.
There will be that time when I need the magic eraser because Rutgers pulls an unbelievable upset. It'll happen.
Or maybe when D'Antonio gets fired.
It's not going to be consistent.
Yeah,
that'll be right. Maybe it's this year. Rutgers will beat Michigan State, then D'Antonio will get fired.
Right.
And then Rutgers will hire him.
Yeah. That'd be smart. But they'd have to pull off the upset first. If you don't have anything else on Rutgers, we can move on, Troy.
No, I have no expectations for Rutgers. Yeah. I don't even think they're going to pull off an upset this year. Like, I don't. There's some
either.
Teams that I'll sit down and look at and say, well, if all the stars align and everything falls into place and the other team plays like crap, this team might be able to pull a major upset. I'm not even calling that with Rutgers.
No.
I don't see it. They got they could very well go winless in the Big Ten.
They did a year.
They really could.
So, yeah. I agree. That's all I have on Rutgers as well. To move on to Indiana, we're going to talk about Indiana and Maryland next, and these 2 teams are at least interesting, and if things broke their way and the other team played like crap, you could see Indiana beat whoever, or Maryland beat whoever. They're on a different level. They really are. If you only have to look at overall record. Rutgers last year 1-11. Indiana was 5-7. Maryland 5-7. But they can compete. They can win games against teams. Rutgers can't. When Rutgers got crushed by Kansas a couple years ago, that was like, all right, it's.
Yeah, you and I talked about that on the show.
Yeah, that was just ridiculous. Anyway, moving on to Indiana. Last year they went 5-7, like I said, 2-7 in Big Ten play. Obviously not great. Tom Allen's going into his 3rd year. I think that he is, I don't want to say making the program better, but I think that they have a bit of an identity, and they have talent at quarterback, and they have talent at wide receiver, and they have talent at running back, and defensively there are times when they can play well. So I don't think they're a doormat. I think they're better than Illinois. I think they're, we already talked about Rutgers. I think Indiana is as average as you can get in the Big Ten. But again, offensively.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're in the Big Ten, though, youngsters, so being average puts you 8.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Or 10.
Or 9. Or
11. 10. Last year they finished 2-7, in the Big Ten, and who else finished worse? Rutgers did. That was it. Illinois finished 2-7. Rutgers was the only other team that had a worse record. So, yeah. 13th. You can make the argument for Indiana in the Big Ten anyway. But so statistically, a year ago they were fine across the board. There's nothing that stands out. They started 4-1 last year. Obviously, that includes some non-conference teams, but went 1-6 down the stretch. That might be how it goes this year, just looking at their schedule. But before I talk about their schedule, again, quarterback is back, running back's back, top wide receivers are back, top tight end is back, 9 returning starters defensively, kicker and punter are both back. They both were good a year ago. So this team has experience. They've got Peyton Ramsey at quarterback is fine, running back, Stevie Scott, talked about him a lot a year ago as a freshman. He's good. Both their top wide receivers are 6'3", 6'4", seniors. They've made plays in the past. So I think talent-wise, experience-wise, you could see Indiana upset a ranked team this year. I'm not going to say it's going to happen for sure, but it's this type of team that would reach up and play out of expectations and, nab Penn State 20-19 one night, randomly when you don't expect it to come. So I don't think that would be a shocker at all this year. I would almost expect them to have one of those upsets this year because of how talented they are offensively and how experienced they are just across the board.
Kevin, you mentioned a talent on offense, and that's great. Quarterback, running back, wide receivers. The key for Indiana is how well that offensive line plays.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the teams that are going to be playing, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State, and then the teams from the West. That offensive line is going to have to step and play above their skill level against the tougher competition.
Yeah.
Because when they face a Penn State defensive line or a Michigan defensive line, they're going to be overmatched. They're going to be out-talented. They're going to have to find a game or two where they dig deep and just say, I'm not getting beat today. And that's kind of how I prefaced the Rutgers thing. Because you kind of stole my thunder. Indiana and Maryland are those teams where you could see one game where everything falls into place. And bam, they get a big win. But then They could turn around and they could lose to Illinois, or they could lose to Rutgers. That's my only concern. Now, Indiana, to me, though, is a little different story, Kevin, because of what you talked about. The biggest thing is on defense. I mean, you look at the offenses they have to play against. And to return 9 starters, I don't care if you're good, bad, indifferent, 9 starters returning. That is experience coming back on a defensive side of the ball against very good offensive teams, especially in the West. So, to me, the key for Indiana this year, and really where they're at, you're talking about program progression. 5-7 a year ago, they need to make a bowl game this year. That has to be the goal for Indiana.
Yeah.
To be 500 or above and make a bowl game. They are close last year, but again, they're in a tough division. We mentioned the 4 teams that I'm going to pen in against Rutgers. You've got Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan. Indiana has to play all 4 of them. That is 90% probability 4 losses right there. That doesn't leave much wiggle room to lose many other games, and now you've got to play your schedule against the West. I mean, and you got to play Maryland. Maryland's no pushover.
Right.
So, Indiana, to me, the logical progression is, can we get that extra win and get into a bowl game? Yeah. But if they finish 5-7 again, Kevin, fans are fickle, boosters are fickle, ADs are fickle, and they'll say, "Oh, you're not progressing the program. You can't win more than 5 games. You're doing crappy with this program, blah, blah." Maybe it's because I was a college coach. Maybe because I look at programs a little bit different. I look at internal things and how you're doing, and maybe some of the external things like, look at the division we're in, and what do you want me to do at Indiana? Because I'm going to get out-recruited by Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State every day of the week.
Yeah.
Michigan State was 4-8, and we're going after the same recruit. 9 times out of 10, recruits going to Michigan State. I'm sorry.
Right.
So Indiana's on an uphill climb.
Yeah.
They're on an uphill climb just based on the division they're in. Finishing 5-7 to me, Kevin, would not mean, oh, the program is at a stalemate. No. I'm actually excited to watch them play because, like you said, the skill players return. Quarterback, receivers, running back. I just need to see how this offensive line plays and how they do defensively. So it should be an exciting year for Indiana.
Right.
It's not like they're going to go to Penn State. Well, they could. I mean, teams do go to Penn State and get blown out by 50. But my point is, Indiana has a competitive team, but it may not equate to wins and losses. That's all I got.
I agree 100%. Their first 4 games, like, I expect them to go 3-1. They played Ball State, Eastern Illinois, Ohio State, Connecticut. Like, okay, you go 3-1, then you go at Michigan State, probably a loss. Then you return home to Rutgers. Okay. Like, that's 4-2, would be my guess. But then at Maryland, that'll be huge. And then at Nebraska, you play Northwestern at home, at Penn State, Michigan at home, at Purdue. I mean, so those last 6, they could go 0-6 in the last 6. 100% they could. But, you know, you've got to start at least 4-2 if you're Indiana this year if you want to have a chance at 6 wins, because that last part of the schedule is very difficult. It would be nice if Maryland was at home. It'd be nice if Purdue was at home. It'd be nice if any of those other teams were at home. But, you know, so it might.
You know, Kevin, you know how I'm always on this whole cupcake thing. It's a cupcake game and blah, blah, blah. I look at teams like Indiana, Maryland. I guess I can throw Illinois in there, Rutgers in there. For them, cupcake games are almost necessary to play in the postseason.
And they're almost not cupcake games. Like, you know, you can beat a team 41-21, but it's not necessarily this, you know, unbelievable, oh my God, we're so much better than you. You're obviously
And
better.
I guess I call them cupcakes, Kevin, because I'm spoiled talking about the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a Connecticut to me.
Right.
Decent football program, right? They're going to go on and be competitive, but any other team that plays them besides Indiana, it's a cupcake game.
Yeah.
Michigan versus Connecticut, cupcake. Wisconsin, even Wisconsin, even though Wisconsin's not a dominant offense, still a cupcake. To me, that's a cupcake. Mm-hmm. So when I say that, it's just based on the opponent itself. But like you said, for Indiana, they're not cupcakes. They're games they've got to go out and play, and they've got to win. Big games. They've got to go 3-0 in the non-conference, Kevin.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yep.
Because there's 2 games for sure that are like maybe toss-ups, and that's Rutgers and Maryland. So you win those 2, that's still only 5 wins. And that's why I said, is this team going to step up and find a win somewhere else? Purdue is no pushover. Right. Heck no, they're not a pushover. That's not an easy game. And even the Maryland game is not going to be easy.
Right.
Rutgers, okay. I'm going to favor Indiana about 80-20.
Yeah.
So, all right, move on.
Maryland a year ago, also 5-7, 3-6 in the Big Ten. They had an extra win when comparing them to Indiana. Mike Locksley is the new head coach. He's in year 1. He was the co-offensive coordinator in Alabama a year ago, so huge change there. To choose Maryland's head coaching job, I think is interesting because he was going to get other offers from other places, like whether it was this offseason, next offseason, whatever. When you're that high up under Nick Saban, you're going to get head coaching offers. And he's from Maryland. He grew up in the area. So he wanted to truly be at Maryland. I think that means something.
I think that means a ton. I mean, Maryland, to me, Kevin, again, will not be a powerhouse football program. Yeah. When I think of Maryland sports, I think of basketball. That's what I think of. I don't think of football. But I'm not saying they can't be competitive in football. And can they be middle of the pack in the Big Ten? Sure. I think when we have to be realistic about some of these teams and the ceiling they have.
Right.
Again, look where Maryland's located. Look at what they have to recruit against. I know, okay, you're on Saban's staff. That might be name recognition. That might work for a year or two. But
right.
if you're not winning,
yep.
It doesn't matter if you're Nick Saban, because if you don't win, players aren't going to want to go there.
Right.
And when you're Maryland competing in the Big Ten, middle of the pack, bowl games being 7-5, 8-4, that's like being a dominant team like a Michigan and an Ohio State, if that makes any sense to you. If he gets that program in Maryland to 7-8 wins every year, and then every once in a while has a great recruiting class, maybe can contend for a Big Ten championship berth, maybe. I mean, and that's the one thing, and if you've noticed my tune today, Kevin, college football is lopsided. You've got your powerhouse teams, and you've got your powerhouse teams. And it's going to be that way forever.
Yeah.
Teams like Maryland going 7-5, 8-4, 9-3, those are Super Bowl years. Those are years to cherish. Because college football is so top-heavy, it's unbelievable.
Yep.
There's never going to be parity in the Big Ten, ever.
We talked about the top 25. I mean, it's teams like, just off the top of my head, not even looking, like Texas, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Michigan, Wisconsin will be in there, Iowa will be in there, other Big 12 school, Oklahoma, Texas, like USC, when they have a competent head coach, will be there. Stanford should probably be in there somewhere. I mean, it's the same 18 schools most of the time that are going to be in the top 25. Really. So how many different teams really get into the top 25 during a college football season? Like 40?
Well, what's more importantly, Kevin, is look at the college football playoff at the end of the year.
Right.
I mean, you've usually got the same 6 teams battling it out.
I mean,
and every year there's going to be an anomaly. There's going to be that one other school that has a very good year, that is a power school, that's just having a phenomenal run, and they're going to be mentioned and maybe sneak in, like Wisconsin a few years ago. Right. That's an anomaly. I don't expect Wisconsin to be in that talk every year, and I'm a Badger fan. But if they can contend for the West title and be in the Big Ten championship game every year, or a chance to, that's great. That's a great position for a Badger fan.
Yeah.
I have real expectations. I don't expect Wisconsin football to be on the level of an Alabama every year and trying to get in the college football playoff. I don't.
Right.
But competing for the West and a chance to play in the Big Ten championship game, yes. And once it falls below that, then it's time for change. But my expectations now are they're near the top of the division every year. So back to Maryland, Kevin, I thought it was a great hire. Because when you're going back to my coaching days, kids can tell if you're sincere about building a program. They can tell if you want to be at a program. This is a guy, and all people got to do is look at the resume. Like you said, why Maryland? Why didn't you just stay at Alabama till a better job came? He's from the area. He gets a chance to coach in the Big Ten.
He called it his dream job. I don't think the next coach at Boston College, unless you went there from the area, is going to call Boston College football a dream job. No one calls Maryland football a dream job. And those are equivalent
programs.
Right, unless you truly love it. No one's going to call Oklahoma State football a dream job unless you're from the area, your mom went there. You know, everything's got to be Oklahoma State growing up.
Well, I'll put it in perspective for a youngster. I mean, I don't coach anymore. I got out of coaching, many years ago now. But my dream job would have been University of Wisconsin-Whitewater.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what their record was. They could have been 0-19 for 3 years in a row. They could have not won a game. And if I had an opportunity when I was coaching to coach at UW-Whitewater, that was my dream job.
Right.
Really. Because I played there. And I have a vested interest in that job.
Exactly.
So I'm saying that for recruiting purposes, and now this guy, he's got a brain. Saban doesn't hire dummies, at least X's and O's dummies. As far as personality-wise and everything else, I can't talk to that. But X's and O's, Saban does not hire dummies for X's and O's.
Yeah.
So he knows his football.
Yeah. So
all right,
carry on. Get into what Maryland's actually going to look like this year. Statistically, they did really well running the football. I think they were, 17th? Yeah, 17th in the country, 230 yards a game on the ground. Like, they could run it. And Anthony McFarland was a freshman last year, their top running back. He's back. He made freshman first-team All-American, whatever. So he's a really good back that they have, for sure. He's probably their most productive player. They lost Deshaun Jones. I think we mentioned this a week or two ago. He was a wide receiver that scored 3 touchdowns in his first college game a year ago. He was a freshman, scored 3 touchdowns. He's got talent, obviously, but he went out with an injury over the offseason. He's out for the year. So that sucks, for sure. Offense would have been better with him in there, without question. Quarterback-wise, they gained a transfer from Virginia Tech who, just during his career at Virginia Tech, he was good. Like, he had I think he threw for 25 touchdowns, 10 picks over his career. He's got starting experience, obviously. I think last year he missed the last, 9 games because of an injury. But he's at Maryland. He's going to start this year. Josh Jackson is his name. So I think you're getting quality quarterback play. I think you have, obviously, a dynamic running back who last year could run for 200 yards in any given game. So I think he can do the same this year. It'll be an interesting offense. It's not garbage. Indiana won't be garbage to watch. Maryland won't be garbage to watch either. I think those two programs really, talent-wise, probably on the same level. Indiana's probably
yeah, I'm not worried about Maryland's offense, Kevin. It's the other side of the ball that I worry about.
Uh-huh.
I'm not worried about their offense.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Offensive line returns its center, 2 guards. The tackles aren't supposed to be terrible either. So, like you said, offense should be interesting to see. Defensively, you've got some key guys returning. What are the numbers exactly?
Key guys to what? I don't know if I want anybody returning on that defense. What was the final number? What was their final number for defensive ranking?
Total defense, they were 63rd out of 130. So they were average. They weren't bad. They weren't above average. They were there.
Here's the thing, though, Kevin. I'd like to take just the Big Ten games and see where they'd rank just in the Big Ten games.
Yeah.
Because they got tore up. And the thing is, I watched Maryland a number of times. They got tore up in the passing game. They got tore up in the run game. They had holes everywhere on that defense.
Yeah, like last year. Last year they lost to Ohio State 52-51 in overtime. Like, they could have easily beaten Ohio State. Their defense just couldn't get that one stop. So offensively, they scored 51 points against Ohio State.
That's why I said I'm not worried about their offense.
Yeah. So scored 63 against Illinois. That's Illinois, but as long as you can score 63 against a Big Ten team, that's impressive to me. As long as it's not Rutgers. So yeah, defensively a year ago, you could look at stats and say they were average. Were they realistically a below-average defense? Probably. But I think they've got some talented.
You're so complimentary to teams, Kevin. That defense was terrible. Below average, my patootie, it was terrible.
At times, yeah. At times. They held, Rutgers to 7 points? So, that's good.
There's a win. I just want to touch on it. I'm adamant about it because you brought it up, the Ohio State game, 52-51. Yeah. The problem with that defense, Kevin, is you're absolutely right. They couldn't get off the field. And how do you judge a great defense? You mentioned it earlier to the listeners. I could care less about stats. You're 131st in rushing, giving up rushing yards. Great. Okay. Well, what if you're second in the country in turnovers forced?
That's actually something, a year ago, they it's funny you bring that up, they were 15th in the country in turnover margin. So they could force turnovers a year ago, which obviously helps.
Well, oh, crap. Hold on. No. I just almost got run off the road.
Yeah.
The thing is, they could not get off the field in key times.
Right.
Every time I watched them, they're playing, and you know how defense goes, and you're looking for a sway, momentum. We just scored, need to get the ball back, not even to, like, take the lead or cut into a lead. It's just for momentum. It's just like they kept playing, well, it's a track meet, and we're going to run this sprint. That defense needs to figure out how to get stops and get that offense back on the field. And they need to do it at key times against key teams. Again, they're close. They're 5-7. So they're going to go out and be competitive. It'll be interesting to watch the offense. I just don't know if defensively, hopefully they've shored that up a little bit. I'm done there.
Yeah, fair enough. Hopefully the car troubles are behind you.
No, I got cut off, and I'm on a back road.
Yeah.
The guy apparently didn't like that I was going 56 and a 55, and he was riding me on from behind. And then he decided to pass in a no passing zone. And as he's coming up and passing me, a car was coming from the other way. So he literally missed my front bumper by 3 inches. But I continue to do the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm sure our listeners do as well. So, moving on to the upper echelon, so to say, of the Big Ten, we go to Michigan State, and this will be the final team that we talk about today. Let me do this.
Fire D'Antonio!
There we go. Fire D'Antonio. I think realistically, possibly, there's a chance of that. Unfortunately, it's not just fans, crazy wackadoos saying it. I think it's interesting. This whole, 5 different assistants on 1-year rollover contract. I don't know. New AD, we'll see what happens, obviously. But anyway, a year ago, they finished 7-6 overall. They were 5-4 in the Big Ten. Not good if you're Michigan State. You hope to see consistently, 8-win seasons, 9-win seasons, the occasional 10-win season. But I think they're more established under.
Yeah, and I always dream about seeing the Easter Bunny on Easter too. I mean,
think they're more established than Maryland, Indiana. They're on a different level than those teams.
They are. They are. They're the bottom of the top tier, if that makes any sense.
I agree 100%.
The problem you have with Michigan State is these fans got to get real. And I've said it for 2 years. You play in a division with Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan.
That's very
There's
true.
3 losses right there. You might as well just say it. We're going to have 3 losses every year. And the year you can beat them, that's your special year. But honestly, if I was a Michigan State fan, Kevin, I would think I'm going to lose 3 games every year. And there's going to be a special year where I can beat those teams, and that's the year I'm going to carry. But other than that, I have to be real about my team.
Yeah. They beat Penn State a year ago.
You're going to be worked up on a preview show again.
I think they're behind Penn State, just in general. I don't think it's that far. Like, when Michigan State's at home against Penn State, it's almost like a coin flip to me. And maybe I'm wrong in that thinking. Maybe I am. And I know history says you look at Penn State's history, you look at Michigan State's history. Penn State's obviously better. And James Franklin now is bringing in recruits that Michigan State can't even bring in. And James
For now. If he doesn't keep winning, he won't be.
Yeah. Recruiting-wise, he's getting athletes at Penn State. We'll talk about Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State next week. But Michigan State, anyway, a year ago, this is D'Antonio's 16th year, for those counting. Statistically, last year, atrocious offensively. The passing was fine, I guess. Defensively, they were absolutely dominant. They had a top 10 defense basically any way you want to cut it. They were number 1 in the country in rushing defense, which is huge, especially considering they're in the Big Ten. Scoring defense, 8th. Total defense, 10th. Defensively, they were unbelievable a year ago. Really what hurt them was injuries offensively. Like, Lewerke missed time. There were, what was it? Let's see here. 10 different starters missed games last year, offensively. At some point, 10 different offensive starters. I think they had 9 different offensive line combinations start games. Obviously, multiple backups were hurt during different points as well. I think they had, and I didn't look it up to make sure, but it was either 4 or 5 different punters that ended up punting the ball for them last year. Like, there was just so many injuries to that team. You can't blame everything on injuries. You can't blame losing games on injuries, but when you have a different offensive line in front of you, when you have a different quarterback, when you have different starting running backs, when you have, 3 of your top wide receivers gone, like, it eventually, yes, that is a legitimate reason as to why you lose games. So you can't blame everything on injuries, but there is a reason why the offense was that bad a year ago. I think this year now you have 8 starting offensive guys returning. Lewerke's back. The top running back's back. Top couple wide receivers are back. 4 of your offensive linemen are back. Like, I think that will matter as long as they stay healthy. That's the key to me. I think if you look statistically, you look at how the offense is going to look this year compared to last year, it's going to be night and day. Because I think they've got quality guys in there. They just have to be healthy. So I think the offense improves dramatically. I don't think it's going to be a good offense, but I think it'll be solid. I think it'll be fine.
Anything will be better than last year.
Yeah.
As long as their offense, I'll tell you how I'll let you know if their offense is better. If I'm not falling asleep when they have the football offensively, then it's better. It was bad.
Yeah. Last year, they scored 21 points. They scored 19. This was the last 3, 6, 9 games. The last 9 games of their season. They scored 19 against Northwestern, 21 against Penn State, 7 against Michigan, 23 against Purdue, 24 against Maryland, 6 against Ohio State, 6 against Nebraska, Nebraska's defense, 14 against Rutgers, and then the bowl game they scored 6. Bowl game, throw that out the window, whatever, but you get the point that when 24 is your high over a 9-game stretch, that's pretty bad. And you've got 3 6-pointers in there. You got a 7-pointer in there. 14.
Yeah, and honestly, Kevin, if you're a good college football program, and I consider Michigan State a good college football program, you're able to score at least 17 to 20 points a game.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, to me, a good college football program, no matter who you play.
Yeah.
Even in Ohio State and Michigan. Now, every once in a while, Michigan will come up. That defense is really good. And so you can say, okay, you only scored, 7 against Michigan. Understandable. But there should be games. You should not only score 14 points against Rutgers.
Right.
You need to be scoring at least 20-some points against Rutgers.
6 against Nebraska. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but like you said, I'm not going to make excuses. It's the old next man up adage, and you can't make excuses because you got to be ready. But I'll tell you what, Kevin, the next man up adage might be okay in the NFL, but man, in college, once you get to your backups, you're a backup in college for a reason. Mm-hmm. There's a reason that you're a backup at whatever school you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Really the only schools that can afford to do to their backups are what I just talked about 15 minutes ago. College football is top heavy. Michigan backups, Ohio State backups, Alabama backups, Clemson backups. Okay, their backups could probably beat a lot of Division I teams. Yeah. Michigan State backups, not happening. Right. Even Wisconsin backups. My Wisconsin Badgers that I cheer for. No, their backups. If their backups are in the game, it's bad. So if you're not one of the top dominant teams in the country, getting 5 and 4-star recruits all the time, You can't afford to have your backup starting games. You have to develop them. And some people will argue, well, the only way to develop is to play. Well, okay, so here's your catch-22, fans. You want your backups to develop and play. What's going to happen in the meantime is you're going to lose football games. Now you want to fire your coach. Now these players won't develop. So, yes, I'm getting all worked up again over this Michigan State thing because D'Antonio gets a hell of a rap every year. And if there's a guy that develops players, it's D'Antonio. And if it's a guy that can recruit players into a system and develop them, it's D'Antonio. That's all I got, youngster. Wrap it up with Michigan State because I'm just going to keep getting worked up over this because carry on.
Oh.
Hello?
No, I'm not on mute. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. I couldn't hear you 2 minutes ago.
Oh, weird. So they returned 8 starters. I'll repeat. They returned 8 starters a year ago from a team that had a top 10 defense a year ago. Like, huge. That defense will be great again. A really good defensive tackle coming back, a really good defensive end coming back, a really good linebacker, a really good corner, a really good safety. I mean, they've got their best players coming back, basically. So they'll be really, really, really strong defensively. It just comes down to the offense. And schedule-wise, 7 projected starters defensively are seniors. Defensively, they're going to be lights out again. Schedule-wise, my last thing with Michigan State, down the stretch, it might get interesting. I guess on the road, in particular. On the road, they play at Northwestern. They play at Ohio State. They play at Wisconsin. They play at Michigan. Those 4 games could realistically all be losses. Home to Penn State, home to, there's some easier teams in there. Just looking, Maryland, Illinois, Indiana, at Rutgers, not exactly difficult. So they've got some winnable games on there, but at Northwestern, at Ohio State, at Wisconsin, at Michigan, could go 0-4 there. If I pick their schedule now, and I haven't done this with every team on today's show, but Michigan State, if I had to pick it now, 8-4. And those 4 road games would be the games, if I had to pick right now, that I would say, yeah, I guess I'll say they lose that game. So, hopefully they pull off an upset or two. If they do that, then maybe they'll be in the running for something big. If not, which would not surprise me whatsoever, they might finish 8-4 and be good, but nothing huge will come from this year, and we'll see what happens, I guess, to D'Antonio and D'Antonio's coaching staff.
And here's the thing, Kevin, is 8-4 really that bad in college football?
Not right.
Apparently to Michigan State fans it is. And I'm sorry if I'm ripping on Michigan State fans. If you're a Michigan State fan and you're getting all mad at me, I don't care. Teams would kill to be 8-4 every year.
Right.
They would kill for it. And you got to look at that schedule. You just mentioned the schedule, Kevin. So if you're not going to be happy at 8-4, I don't know what more you want. Maybe you should become an Ohio State fan or a Michigan fan then. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Michigan State is Michigan State. They're going to have their 10-win seasons, but they're not going to do it every year. They're not going to do it every year. I'm sorry. The same thing. Michigan State to me, Kevin, is, I don't want to say a mirror image of Wisconsin, but you look at Wisconsin, they're close. Yeah. They're teams that are going to win 8-9 games every year, and there's going to be that year or two where they recruit really well and the guys really develop well because those are both programs that recruit to their system.
Yeah.
The coaches recruit, they develop players that maybe were 3 stars. Nobody else wanted them, so they took them in. They sat on the bench for 2 years. Then they play as juniors, and they develop into something special. And then you have a 10, 11-win season. Mm-hmm. That happens. For Michigan State, Kevin, it's a cycle. And I'm going to say it I'm basically going to be like a Wisconsin fan. Every 3 or 4 years, there might be that 1 year where maybe 11 wins, maybe 10 wins. Yeah. Maybe we'll be in the top 10. And that's what Michigan State is to me. They're a team that's going to churn around 8, 9 wins every year, and then, boom, every once in a while, a 10, 11 win year. And then, boom, back down to 8 or 9, have another good recruiting class, and then 3, 4 years later, boom, 10 or 11 wins again. And to me, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't know why fans expect 10 or 11 wins every year when you're not one of those dominant teams I talked about.
Yeah.
Like you're an Ohio State fan. You expect 10 wins bare minimum. And 10 wins to you, Kevin, that's a bad year, right? That's what you're accustomed to as an Ohio State fan.
If they don't win the national title, it's not considered a successful year. If Duke doesn't win the national title, it's not considered a successful year, regardless of the players that are there. You just assume massive talent's going to be there, and if you win the championship, awesome job. If you don't, you somewhat failed. Like, oh, look, we beat Michigan. Oh, look, we went 11-1. Oh, look, we won the Big Ten. Well, you didn't make the college football playoff. You didn't win the whole thing. So, wouldn't, in the end, that's what expectations are.
And some people may say that I'm settling, but I'm really not. I'm being real.
Yeah.
Like, I expect, Kevin, so my expectations of Wisconsin this year are to win the Big Ten West and to play in the Big Ten championship game. However, they've got a tough road to do it. But they've built the program to be good enough so that they can compete every year. And just because this team is good enough, look at the division they're in this year. You've now got 5 other competitive teams in that division that could be 5 losses. And that's what Michigan State fans have to realize. You've got Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State above you, and they're always going to be above you, except for those every once in a while years where you can pull the upsets.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen every year. I don't think Michigan State will ever be on a level where we go year in and year out and say they're going to battle Ohio State this year, Kevin. They're going to battle Ohio State again. They're going to battle Michigan. There's going to be the year where they can beat them and then all of a sudden put a wrinkle in the division. But we're never going to do a preview show on this show ever in the lifetime where we're sitting here probably anointing Michigan State the conference champion in a preseason preview. Ever.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah. My last thought, defensively, we could say that. Offensively, they're returning guys, and they're healthy, and they can do some things. So it sucks that their schedule breaks out that they have to go at Ohio State, at Michigan this year. Because I think this could be one of those teams that, hey, 10 wins, 11 wins, I think personnel-wise, I don't think that's out of the question. Schedule-wise, probably out of the question to me.
So my last point to what you're saying there, youngster, is I'm never going to say that, hey, they're going to compete for the championship. Well, the way I said it. But when you look at it, do I expect them to be competitive against Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State? Yes, I do. I don't think they're going to get bulldozed over and lose like 38-0.
Right.
But the reality is, I'm going to say there's 3 losses every year. And now, like you said, this year they got to go on the road for 2 of those 3 games.
Yeah.
Next year, they'll have 2 of the 3 at home.
Right.
So a lot of it has to do with the schedule. What else you got, youngster? Otherwise, we'll let the listeners go.
Yeah, that's it. That's all from me. If you're into fantasy football, go to @youngsteroldman on Twitter or Facebook. And Troy and I are running a fantasy football league over at ESPN that drafts in September. So if you like fantasy football, join our league. It's free. That's my last statement of today.
Yep, you can just go to @youngsteroldman on Twitter, on Facebook. You can go to our homepage, click on the link, and be in our 20-team league. It's free. No elaborate prizes, but you get to be on our Super Bowl preview show. That is a great prize in itself, youngster.
Yeah.
But for the youngster, I am the old man. Hope you enjoyed the show today. We'll get back at you next week looking at Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State. And then the week after, youngster, football time! man.
By the way,
oh,
very quickly, the 24th, like this Saturday, college football starts. Like, there are a couple games on the 24th. The first Big Ten game is the 29th. So next Thursday, just so people are aware. August 29th is when the Big Ten starts. But there are games going on the 24th. Just so you know.
All righty. Hope you enjoyed the show, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.
Now have a good day.